Hello folks, welcome back to this course on how to use the Smartrek web app. In this lesson we're gonna learn how to generate a performance report. So what exactly is a performance report? Basically it's a tool for you to get a summary of how you're doing in the woods. So it's gonna help you know exactly where you should put in your efforts in the woods, and this way you can be much more efficient. So first, to generate a performance report, what you need to set up differentials. So if you're not already using differentials, then you won't be able to generate this report, but that's okay. The good news is if you're not familiar with differentials, then well, now is a good time to start learning about them. So first, let's go to the web app. I've already logged into an account which has data from last season. So I'll just go quickly on how to set up differentials. So first, click on the My Sensors and then click on List by Type. So here you have all the sensors. So basically differentials are just another way of displaying data. So instead of viewing data like this, with sensors showing the vacuum level at the end of each main line, you might want to know instead how lower each of your main line are from the extractor at your pumping station. And so let's dive right in and create some differentials. So here I'm going to create a differential for pumping station 2. You can see here P2. P2 is the, I know it's the sensor at the extractor. So I'm going to select this sensor, scroll up, click on this button. Oh, I'm sorry, no, I'm wrong. So just select here and click on differential. So now you can see the reference sensors, which means the sensor at the extractor is P2. Now you have a bunch of sensors available. Just select any sensors that are related to this pumping station. So I'm going to select a bunch. Alright, so now I have a few. Scroll down, click on Save. Alright, so now you should have your differentials. To see them, you have to go to the differential page. And there you go. Now I have two of those because I went ahead and I created this differential before showing this to you guys. So I'm just going to remove the second one. There you go. So what this means that what I'm seeing here is the actual value of the sensor, which is the same on as the other page. But here, what I get here is the difference with the reference at the pumping station. So here I know I have 25 inches of mercury, which is 2.24 inches of mercury less than at the pumping station, which is currently at 27.2 inches of mercury. So everything here is color coded. So what this color code means is where you have to go back here and you have to set up your thresholds. So for the purpose of this demonstration, I've used these three thresholds. So the first one is 0.5 inches of mercury. So anything that is less than 0.5 inches of mercury difference from the pumping station will show up as white. Anything in between 1.5 and 0.5 will show up as green. Anything between 3 and 1.5 will show up as yellow, and anything below 3 inches of mercury is red. So if you don't have any thresholds yet, just enter those values and then don't forget to save all changes. So click on Save all changes. Once you're done, then we can generate the performance report. So let's go ahead. So now I'm going to select a day, which I know has data. So obviously not in November, say the 16th of April to the 17th, and let's change the start time so that it's relevant for us. There you go. So from the 16th to the 17th, and for this report I want to see only P2, so my pumping station 2. I'm going to click on Generate Performance Report. Now once you click on that, you're going to see it's pretty long. There's a lot of data to be processed and a lot of calculations to be done. So instead, I've already generated this report for you. I'm just going to change to another page. So here you go. So this is what I get. And so you can see the same colors here, which is also related to the thresholds, which we can see here. So for example, we can see quickly where we should put in more efforts in the woods here. So for example, P2, 9A here has no green or white whatsoever. You only have red and yellow, which means that your vacuum is generally lower than 1.5 inches of mercury from the extractor. So actually, if you went into this wood, you would have seen that this particular main line had a lot of taps, so more than 1,000 taps on it. So that's why we're seeing this performance degradation here. Can also see quickly that P2L5 is pretty good. We have a lot of green, some white or transparent here too. And most importantly, you have some red here, so 14.26%. What does percent mean? Obviously, it's the amount of time. So here it's 14.26% of the time from the 16th to the 17th of April. So 14.26% of the time, the vacuum at the end of the main line was lower than, was 3 inches of mercury lower than at the extractor. And during all of those time, the main line wasn't frozen, which is good. It meant that when you started the pump, you started to have vacuum at the end of the main line immediately. I'm just searching for another line here. Okay, so let's look at this one, P2L2A. So 42.11% of the time, the vacuum at the end of the main line was 3 inches of mercury lower than at the extractor or more. And on this 42% of the time, we had 19.36% of the time that the line was actually frozen. So this is rather bad. Yeah, so we can also check on the graphics to see if it makes sense. So let's just go back. So let's remember this P2L2A. Let's go back to list by type. So where is it now? Oh, here it is. So P2L2A. I want to see if it makes sense. So I'm just going to generate a chart here. So I'm going to click on this one. And I'm also going to click on P2. Why? Because it's my extractor and I want to see the difference between those two. So click here, click on View Charts, select the date. So 16th to 17th. Execute. So the charts are ready. Click on View. Right, so here we have this first line. This green line is P2, which is the pressure at the extractor, and P2L2A was the other line, the main line that we were looking for. So basically, in the performance report, we're not taking into account this portion here. So whenever the extractor is not actually measuring any vacuum, so it's not functioning, your pumps are not functioning, obviously we're not gonna generate any stats on that. It's not gonna count as a frozen line. But here, and maybe a little bit here, here, and here, we can see that the P2L2A line was frozen. Now let's go back to the performance report, and we can see that 29.22% of the time, the vacuum at the end of the main line was within 1.5 inches of mercury from the extractor. So I'm going to select here to zoom in. And let's see what we have here. 26.6, 27.2. So yeah, we were in between 0.5 and 1.5 inches of mercury, so it does make sense. So all of this portion here and here would be correspond to this green line. Some of this area would correspond to the yellow line here, and the rest would be red. All of this section. So overall, if we check here, we have 100% minus 40, let's say 44%. So all of this area here is 56%. So 56% of the time I could say that my main line was performing pretty good. So there you go. So you can see that the performance report is a great tool to actually visualize everything that's going on in the woods. It's much more faster to generate a report like that and analyze what's going on than to go to every sensor and analyze every line like this and check what's the difference from the extractor and the main line. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and see you in the next video.